Hello, welcome back to Fred in the Shed. We are back up in the Radio Shack, and on this video we're going to look at another radio. This one slightly different to the norm. This is the XHDATA D-608 Weather Band Emergency Radio with a hand-cranked dynamo. This is a fully featured radio. Covers FM, medium wave and also the shortwave broadcast band. We'll be getting into all of the details in a moment. There's a fair bit to get through on this radio, but I just want to start this video, and I hope this doesn't come across as a rant, because I think this is a prepper's radio. This is being prepared, and I've always said you should have at least one battery powered medium wave radio, at least a medium wave radio at home, for when everything switches off and you're left without any media coverage. And when I've said that before, I generally get a little bit of stick in the comments, and people generally say that I'm a bit of a weirdo, and have you got a survival shelter in your garden? Are you buying cans of beans and soup? Have you got bags and bags of pasta? And the answer is no, I haven't. But, and I will get to the radio in a minute, but let me just explain what happened last year here in the UK, here in Hertfordshire, where nothing really goes wrong. We experienced a power cut which lasted about 8 or 9 hours. It was just after lunchtime. The power went off in the house. No one panicked about it. It was fine, but it stayed off. And people have said, well, you've got your mobile phone, and it's true. And what I did, I got onto my mobile phone. I checked my elderly mother, who lives about 8 miles away in Hertfordshire, text her and said, Mum, have you got power? She came back and said, no, power's all off, but I'm okay, that's fine. So yeah, well, what's the problem? Well, people said last time that I made that comment is that, Fred, you're dramatising this. Mobile phone masts, they've got large backup batteries. They can go a couple of days, or at least a day, without power until the power comes back on. Well, that was proved wrong big time, because do you know what? 25 minutes later, I just thought I'd check on her again, and when I looked at my phone, no cellular coverage. Everything was down. So I've got no TV, I've got no phone coverage. I've nothing on my phone to come up to tell me on the news what's going on. It's a complete blank out. Everything's out. Thankfully, it was daytime, and we'd eaten. That's another thing. So after about, not that long, just about an hour and a half, I looked out of my window, and then you've got people walking up and down the road with their mobile phones held above their heads, looking for a phone signal, shouting across, have you got a signal? Have you got a signal? There's no bloody signal because there's no power. Now, that power cut lasted right up until the evening, and we were just thinking about firing up the gas barbecue to get some dinner, and then the power came back on. But imagine if the power didn't come back on, and imagine if that carried on all night and all of the next day. People would be very quickly wanting to know information. And if you think that it will never happen and people won't get trapped in their houses, well, look at COVID. No one ever thought COVID was going to happen. But under COVID, you could only go out for 1 hour a day, and you were quite often stopped by patrolling police cars and asked where you're going. And you had to have a blooming good reason. Otherwise, you were fined quite heavily. So it can happen. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And when there's a complete media blackout, the guy with a simple medium wave radio, or more so, the guy with a ham radio, a CB aerial stuck on his house, he is king, because he's going to find out what's happening. So these radios, I think, are really, really important. You should just have at least one radio, because how many people nowadays have a battery-powered radio in their house? No one. I know I do, but my kids don't, my friends don't, no one does. You might be lucky if you can get to your car and you've got a radio in your car, but in the house, do you want to be sitting in your car all night listening to what's going on? But in your house, no one's got a radio. So that's a bit of a rant. I'm sorry about that. If you skipped it, you skipped it. But anyway, this is a great looking radio. Let's get into the review. Let's find out if this really is a good emergency prepper radio. So firstly, as I mentioned, it's covers on the FM band the four main bands that you get around the world, from 64, 76, 87, 87.5, all the way up to 108 megahertz, and that can be done in 10 kilohertz steps, which is pretty standard, or even 100 kilohertz steps. Medium wave, the two main bands are covered, 522 to 1620, 520 to 1710, that's 9 and K steps. Shortwave, as I said, 1711 up to 30 megs. And this radio will, for a £27 radio, will tune down to 1 kilohertz steps. A lot of other radios we've been looking at recently that are claiming to be shortwave receivers are stuck at 5 kilohertz steps. So that's straight away a thumbs up. So you get in the radio, you do get quite a decent set of instructions. It has got the NOAA Weather alert system as well on it. Unfortunately, we don't get that in the UK. It's snowing good to me. But yeah, I mean, basically, no problem here with the instructions. It's a very basic, simple radio. I really don't think you're going to have any problems with this. It does have memories. There's 100 on the FM, 100 on medium wave, and 300 memory presets. So if you want to sit and program the memories. Now, I've got it comes in about 4 colours, I think. I got the bright orange one because I thought that probably suits an emergency radio. And there we go. There it is. I've switched it on just by getting it out of the box. Nothing else in the box, only a basic USB-C charging cable to charge the battery. Now when it comes down to the battery, obviously this is quite important. It's a removable battery. It's an 18650 cell, and it's quite a large capacity. It's 3000 mAh. So you could, if you were worried, just get yourself a spare one of those, keep it charged. Okay, let's have a closer look at the radio. It has some functions before we even switch it on. If you were worried about the battery going flat, all you need to do is place the radio in a window. It has a solar cell on the top here. This hinges out as well. We'll have a look at this. This is quite a decent lamp underneath there. But it has a solar cell to just capture power. And I'm just going to switch on my flashlight now. I can't say torch, it seems to annoy people. And as I switch that on, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. The display has lit up, and straight away that is charging the radio. That's no problem at all. It has a 5-volt DC outlet, so you can charge your mobile phone. And if the worst comes to the worst, then it does have a pull-out plastic cranking handle. It is a little bit flimsy. It's a lot flimsy, to be perfectly honest. So it's something that you'd only have to use really in an emergency. And once again, if I turn that, the flashing light comes on there, and that's charging the battery. Other features other than the radio bands, of course, it is an MP3 player. Little TF card goes in the side there under. I will say it's a bit of a flimsy rubber kind of protection strip. That is a little bit flimsy. I'm not all that happy with that, to be honest. It's not a waterproof radio, of course, but as a survival radio, I would have liked to have seen something better there. Only supports up to 32 gigabyte TF card, which is a bit odd. Most TF cards now are 128, 256, but I mean you get a lot of tracks on that and quite a few audio books if you were going to be stuck on your own. And it's nice that you've got the MP3 controls there on the bottom. Also can act as a Bluetooth speaker and also can act as a speakerphone, which could be quite important. Now, other features before you switch the radio on, which I think are more useful than that, is this pop-up little reading light. This kind of is stepped. As you pull it up, it locks, and you can adjust it any way you like. Switch on the lamp here, and there are 3 different brightnesses. That's the low one, medium, and high. And that, do you know what? That is really, really bright. That is quite difficult to look into without hurting my eyes. So that would probably light up a room if you was in complete darkness. And again, you can recharge it by the cranking handle. So that's very useful. Now I've got retina burnout. I can only see little dots in front of my eyes. Same thing on the side here. It does have a simple little torch or flashlight, if you like. And again, switching that on, it's got 3 different brightnesses, and I'm going to confirm to you that it does go exceptionally bright. You can see that blowing out the camera. And again, it's too bright to look at. It certainly hurts your eyes. There is an SOS feature as well. If you hold that down, a siren comes on, and I'm not going to do that because it will blow anyone's head off if they're watching on headphones. As far as the speaker goes, yeah, a decent little speaker in there. I believe it's a 5-watt speaker, and it has the sort of passive radiator bass cone thing, you know, that's going on these days on these overseas radios. You're not buying this for sound quality. You're buying it just for an emergency radio, but it's quite nice they've got that. That probably would increase the bass a little bit on the MP3. Quite a decent antenna. No problem with the antenna. It doesn't go too thin at the ends. I think it's about 50 centimetres. Yeah, they're about 50, I would say, centimetres. It is hinged as well, which is quite nice. So you haven't got to move the radio around. Simple to use, this radio. So we've got a band select there, straight onto FM. Of course, tuning wise, it's got a fast and a slow tune. If you turn the little VFO wheel there, which it doesn't feel too bad, it's nice and clicky. It's okay. If you turn it slowly, goes up there, you can sort of see single kilohertz, and then if you turn it faster, it then jumps to the 10 kilohertz, which is what you would expect. So let's try and find something without music. Volume control down the bottom here.
The police watchdog says 2 constables and a sergeant have been told they're under investigation for potential misconduct. Joe Black reports.
Can feel the resonance again from that little bass speaker.
Of attacks in Nottingham city centre.
That's very clear. It goes very loud, actually.
Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar, and 65-year-old caretaker Ian Coates. He was sentenced to an indefinite hospital order for 3 counts of manslaughter and another 3 of attempted murder. In May 20...
So that sounds very, very clear. Absolutely no problem. I mean, what you want is clarity, really. You've also, worth noting, I mean, quite useful, I guess, if you've got a signal meter there and an RSSI meter just on the screen. Probably quite useful for shortwave. Going to listen to the medium wave now, see what we get. To change the region setting from 10 kilohertz or 9 kilohertz, you just hold down the V minus there and make sure you're on the right setting. So let's see what we get. It's football by the sound of it. It's worth noting that it does mute on the tuning, on the manual tuning, which is a little bit annoying. It's not a real big thing on this. Let's just do a scan. I'll just turning this up on the... It really rocks on that rear speaker. I just can't play any music, but that speaker really sort of shakes itself about. It has got rubber feet, and I think it needs it as well. Yeah, unfortunately, all I've got is Euro football.
It's National I Forgot Day, okay, and also Made in the USA Day. So if you were born in the USA, you're made in the USA. So anyone...
Quite sensitive.
Happy birthday, Miles Webb, happy birthday there as well. It's also World UFO Day.
Yeah, very clear.
By UFOs when I was, a little Sanj. Up next, on Sunrise, close encounters of
That sounds pretty good, actually. I don't think it's got any EQ settings. There's no tone control, which is a shame, because I think that speaker's capable of some quite good sound. Okay, I'll do shortwave outdoors, because it's just not fair to do it up here. But what we'll try the little TF card with this rather flimsy rubber door, which I don't like, and see what that sounds like. I think it's going to sound quite decent. certainly go quite loud, I think. So if we put that in, now it doesn't automatically start this one. So I think we pressed that button, didn't we? No, I'll have to read the instructions. Bear with me. Right, amazing things, instructions, aren't they? So yeah, you press the M button, it says, and it's gone to Bluetooth mode, which is, do I press it again? High. And there we go. Right, let's turn the volume up. Sounds alright. You can feel the bass resonating through the speaker. Sounds very good. See how loud it goes. That's maximum. Do you know what? That sounds really good. It's a very, very slight bit of distortion at maximum volume. But I mean, for a little radio for £27, no complaints. No complaints there. Okay, so the final thing is just going to be the shortwave band. Now, there's no antenna input, so we are just stuck with the antenna that comes with the radio, so I'll probably just use that. Sometimes what you find is, I live right close to a large medium wave power transmitting station, and if I put a long wire on one of these, it tends to overload it. So what I'm going to do is, a bit later on, we're going to go out in the garden, let's have a flick round a shortwave band, see what it brings in. But so far, I'm pretty impressed with it.
Speaking to Vatican News' Alexandra Sirgon, Pierre Daube, head of the ICRC delegation based in Port Sudan, now the administrative capital of the country, warned that crossing front lines to access conflict zones, whether in Wad Madani or Khartoum, becomes significantly more challenging because obtaining agreements from the
bishops also raised concerns about the statistical likelihood of failed marriages. He said the failure rate for first marriage is roughly 48%, 60% for the second, and 70% for third marriages.
Estaban sin uso y poder reconvertirlos en instalaciones hoteleras o hosteleras.
La historia del edificio, lo que la familia del antiguo farero afrontó con mucha ilusión.
To redirect NATO to counter China. So I don't think this justification holds true that, the Ukraine war has revitalized NATO, because since the end of the Cold War, the NATO have always been used by the United States to expand its influence and also prevent.
إن المملكة تحتل المرتبة الثالثة عالميا من حيث التنافسية في صناعة السيارات بعد الهند والصين. هذا إلى جانب تحقيق قطاع السيارات أرقام إيرادات.
And there you go. The XHDATA D-608 Emergency Radio. I thought I did quite well on shortwave. It's perfectly acceptable. I do like the way it tunes as well, where it goes, when you go slow on little VFO, it tunes on 1 kilohertz steps, and then when you increase your speed, it jumps up to 5. So yeah, and I know I had a little rant at the beginning of the video, so I apologise for that, but I just think that it's advisable to have something like this just as an emergency radio. It's not expensive, £27 delivered, and if there is a blackout and if you can't get any news or any media, you don't have to panic. You've got a simple radio just to find out what the hell's going on, basically. Anyway, come to the end of the video. There is the thumbs up from Fred in the Shed. Thank you for dropping by. I'm only a small channel. I do appreciate every view. Please don't think I take you for granted. That doesn't happen at all on this channel. If you get a second before you go, if you just hit me a thumbs up down below, and then I'll know that you've watched the video and you liked it and I'm doing the right thing. But as for now, as always, please, please, please look after each other for me. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.